Is it going? My name is Evan, and it's time for another book review. This is 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote to Chaos by Dr. Jordan Peterson. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Evan, like I just mentioned before a couple minutes ago. But I run this channel, oh, big surprise, and I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I mostly talk about entrepreneurship as well as digital marketing as well. So if you're into that sort of stuff, or you're just popping by for this Dr. Jordan Peterson book review, I would highly love it and appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, as well as give me some thumbs up if you got some value from this, or leave me a comment and you should tell me to just chill the fuck out every so often. So this is my book review, An Antidote to 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Dr. Jordan Peterson. And I actually started following Dr. Peterson. I found his videos online in around 2015. So this was a year before he actually kind of blew up here in Canada at the University of Toronto. I found some of his lectures online because I was trying to research some stuff that I wanted to go for school for, and I wanted to know what kind of direction I wanted to go in. So I was actually looking up some psychology courses online, and his videos actually just popped up I think he has two different lectures that he does. Maps of Meaning, I think, is one of them. And then I think he has another psychology class as well at the University of Toronto and from his past days at Harvard. So I actually was watching those and getting a free college education through YouTube. So if he still has those videos up, I'm not too sure if he has. He's kind of gone in a different direction from his university teaching days. If he still has those videos available, I highly recommend going through and watching his lectures, and you get pretty much two free psychology university courses. So saves you about like $5,000 right there. Maybe more if you're in the States. But let's get into it. Let's look at this 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan Peterson, my book review of it. So Jordan Peterson, you have to kind of know a bit about who he is. He is a master orator. So if you've seen any of his lectures, or you've seen him talk on different media programs, or you've seen his YouTube channel before, you know that the dude knows how to talk. His knowledge of the English language and literature is astronomical, and he didn't get that way on his own. He actually had to become a superb writer in order to be a proper orator, and he mentions that quite a bit. So in a lot of his Joe Rogan podcasts, he mentions that is that practicing writing, especially for males and even females too, it's just everyone should just practice writing in general. I don't know if he just focused on males or if he said both. I have no idea, but everyone should master writing, because when you can master writing, the world is your oyster. You can either practice to recite those words off of your paper or off your desktop if you're on a computer, or if you're off your phone, off of your little whatever touchscreen keypad. But as soon as you're able to master the written language, then you can either have someone else speak your words for you and read off the words from the page, or you can do it yourself, which I do recommend everyone get a voice and practice what they're writing, because so many people, they are such superb, I couldn't even speak English there, such superb writers, and they don't have a proper articulation where they're more introverted, and they don't have a proper articulation to become extroverted and mention it out loud. And so many extroverted people, they actually don't take the time to write, so they are doing incredible disservice to each other. So it's left and right brain type of thinking, and yeah, as soon as you're able to master, if an introvert can master the skills of being an orator, watch out. Like, world needs to watch out. It's a little bit harder I find, because I'm an extrovert, I find for extrovert to go introverted, but it's all about practice at the end of the day. But I can't speak for someone's experience as an introvert, because I'm just not one. So could be harder, could be not. I have no idea. I don't live other people's lives, so I don't know. Let's move on to, so with this book, it's superbly written. It's absolutely amazingly written, and just for the amount of words, some of the words I actually had to look up, and his knowledge on the English language is phenomenal. So I do recommend to get a good dose of literature from this book. A tad too religious for my taste. So Dr. Peterson is pretty religious. He's a Christian. He believes in the Judeo-Christian doctrine. And he thinks that the West is brought about on Judeo-Christian values. I think the West takes elements of everything and puts it into one, but there is a set of Western values as well, in my opinion. But I think he goes a little bit too far with his doctrine into Christianity inside of this book for my own personal taste. Like, I don't mind listening to someone like lecture me about religion. I went to a Catholic school for my last 3 years of high school, even though I'm not Catholic. So I have had my fair share of religious teachings and religious practices. I had to go out to go pray and go kneel in churches and stuff. So as a part of my high school life, which was a great experience to be able to see other people's perspectives because I never got that in public school. But even this book was a tad too religious for my tasting, especially with it being the 12 rules for life. Is 12 rules, especially like 10 commandments and stuff like that. Something like 12, it does have some religious connotations to it. 12 disciples of Jesus and 12 gods and myths in the ancient Greek Orthodox, which does, and Egyptian gods as well, where there's 12. I could be wrong, could be right on that, but I do know that there is 12 disciples inside of the religious doctrine in Christianity. So, but he does mention throughout the book, like almost like I'm going to say about 3/4 of the chapters, there is some religious text inside of it, and that was just a little too much for me. I'd rather hear a lot more personal stories, personal anecdotes, and personal experiences, which he does talk about in the book, which I do commend him on. But it was just too, yeah, it was just a little too much like religious for my taste. Compared to what he talks about a lot more in his psychology lectures, what he talks about on the media. For his first book, Since Maps and Meaning, which took him a long time to write, it did have a lot of religion associated with 12 Rules for Life and Antidote to Chaos. Let kids skateboard. This is probably my favorite rule inside of the whole book. I don't want to give too much of it away, but pretty much it just there was a time, especially here where I live in Vancouver, which used to be the skate capital of Canada, where there's a lot of skateboarders around and young guys are going out there skateboarding. When I was growing up, skateboarding was so popular. There's Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, great, great video game on the N64. And then later went on to GameCube, but didn't have as much success. But it was great on the N64. And I remember there was a whole bunch of movements within the city to blockade a whole bunch of railings, blockade a whole bunch of routes because people were just skateboarding too much. So, what were the consequences of people trying to make sure and ensure that young kids didn't skateboard? And the majority of young kids who skateboard, who are more susceptible to risk taking, most of it is male. There's tons of studies that were on this, and as well as explained in this book, that most of the people that do end up skateboarding are guys. Not to say girls don't skateboard. I saw many more girls skateboard. I didn't even skateboard. I never skateboarded growing up. I just played the video game. But one of the consequences from trying to block all of these structures like handrails and like bottom of the monuments and stuff like that, to block them off from people skateboarding, is that all these kids, like, what else did they kind of have to do when society was telling them, hey, don't go outside and play, even though there's a lot of propaganda going on at the time to get kids out from playing video games and to go outside, and like, oh, back, like there was their parents, like boomers and stuff, and like back in my day I would stay outside until the wee hours of like the day when the sun was going down. I knew I had to get home. And so all of these politicians who made these laws, these city politicians, all these bylaws to like not skateboard or anything like that, it caused some troublesome because that was the popular thing at the time. And kids that were originally going outside and actually being out and doing risk taking, testing the boundaries of their bodies, of their minds, of what they can and can't do, doing a lot of like fearful things. Skateboarding isn't easy, and I was kind of fearful whenever I skateboarded, so I never really enjoyed it as much. But some of my friends who were very much into risk taking, a lot of them became a lot of them, I'm trying to find the root word here, but a lot of them just kind of said, oh, screw it, society doesn't want me to skateboard anymore. It kind of grew a victim mentality where things are out to get us. And a lot of those kids who are skateboarding and outside and having fun, they all went inside and played video games, or they all started playing video games, computer games, and all that sort of stuff. So it was kind of a different realm of society. And then a lot of these kids, I don't want to spoil too much of this chapter because it's amazing, but a lot of these kids end up resentful of society and of the older generation who actually punished them as a kid. And that's not very good for society to have a whole bunch of young males that are very resentful of the older generation, because those people that are older, they're going to depend on these kids who will now be adults later on. And do you think that these kids, once they're in a power setting, that they're going to be very mindful of the older generation who actually like made all these rules and stopped them from actually having fun and being risk adversive and telling them to go outside or whatever? A lot of these kids will be resentful. So that was one of the takes from Let Kids Skateboard. So I loved that chapter. It's probably my favorite. Another one is Stand Up Straight. This is, I believe it's just in the first chapter. It might have something else, one of the first rule, or it could be in another set of rules. So standing up straight. So he talked a lot about this with the lobsters, and where lobsters, when two males were to fight each other to the death, essentially, one of them, the one that would lose, lost some testosterone. So while the one that won gained testosterone, was a lot more mightier, was a lot more flush, was out there to out there to conquer the world. While this happens for humans as well. So not necessarily with competition, physical competition or anything like that, but the amount of money that someone makes or what's deemed successful in society's eyes is a lot of the time like what boosts testosterone inside of someone. So if a male is not making as much money and they're always around people that are making, or they're always comparing themselves to people who make more money, that actually will end up lowering their testosterone. A good example is taking testosterone levels of someone who has a job, who has not even like how much the job is paid, but has a job, is a steady income coming in. His wife is taken care of. His kids are taken care of, and out of nowhere, a plant closes or he loses his job. Measure the testosterone level when he can provide for his family and he has a life purpose, to now it's a bunch of chaos and he doesn't quite know what to do, and he has to like figure out ways, and now he's not supplying for his family anymore. It could be the same thing with women as well, but I'm just using it in my perspective as a male on this one. But take his testosterone level after he lost his job and lost his career. I bet you it's going to be a lot lower from there. And another good tidbit with stand up straight as well. And standing up straight allows your body to feel a lot better about yourself. It looks more confident on there instead of you slouching. So it talks a lot about slouching and how the mind is just like, oh, you're a sloucher, and it correlates, like your mental correlates with your physical appearance. So that's why working out and all that sort of stuff, being active actually helps with brain development too. I'm probably crossing a whole bunch of different topics right now, and I am not educated in any of this. But being able to stand up straight, what Dr. Peterson talks about in this book, allows for the cortisol and everything to kind of go up in your system. I don't even know if cortisol goes into that, but whatever. But yeah, so another example of this is when women can tell when a guy hasn't gotten laid in a while. There's some sort of, I think it's like a scent or something like that women know desperate men, and they can pick it out, and then they know not to go with this person because the person has a sense of desperation. They haven't gotten laid in a while, so their testosterone level may be a little bit lower, while a male who has quote unquote mated recently, like women are more infatuated with them. That's why a lot of women go after guys who are in relationships, because they have that, because they've had a lot more sex, and they're probably going to get demonetized now, but they've had a lot more mating with the opposite sex, so like they have this scent to them, and women can tell if a guy hasn't gotten laid in a while, a month, 2 months, 3 months, just kind of like by the way his mannerisms are and stuff like that. But I'm kind of getting on another topic, and I'm probably going to get a whole bunch of thumbs down for that type of opinion. But whatever, it's my video. Fuck you guys. But my last thing that I want to talk about that I really enjoyed from this book is the hero's journey. And the hero's journey, which is featured with Carl Jung, and there is 12 steps, 12 rules for life of the hero's journey and what they have to go through. And I really love Dr. Peterson's examples where he uses Disney stories to show the hero's journey, where the hero kind of is born into a society that may or may not be a bit chaotic. The hero doesn't even have to be just a male; it could be a female as well. And it's kind of like it's not necessarily chaotic, but there's a social order that's happening inside of the current society that they're born in, and then there's a disruptor that comes in, and then the hero has to leave that type of society. A good example of this is the Lion King, where the hero is forced out willingly or forced out forcibly of their society of where they live, and then they have to go out and find themselves and be able to conquer their own inner demons in order to come back and literally just conquer. So in the Lion King, Simba has to come back to the Pride and come back to Pride Rock in order to take on Scar at the end. So that was his hero's journey from being a cub and lost, and where he was born into a structured society by Mufasa. Then chaos starts to erupt when Mufasa dies, and then Simba's forced out of Pride Rock, and he has to come back from his journey. And I really love that Jordan Peterson goes into detail about the hero's journey and Carl Jung. And the hero's journey is also documented in another book called Principles by Ray Dalio, which is an excellent business book. But I'm going to wrap up this book review because I'm probably gone on way too long and I probably already lost your interest, but that's all right. Whatever. If you want to support me and you want to support my channel and you got some value from this book, I would love it if you guys bought the Amazon affiliate link that is in the comment section and in the description down below. But you don't have to do that. You can literally just Google 12 Rules of Life and Antidote to Chaos, buy it off of Dr. Peterson's website, or buy it off of Amazon. Doesn't really matter to me. Buy it wherever. But if you got some value from this video on your decision to even get the book, which I do recommend, I recommend that you read it, even though it's a tad too religious for my taste. But everything else around it I really liked. And yeah, no, if you want to support me, you can buy that book. You can also support me by hitting the subscribe button, as well as the thumbs up button, leaving a comment leaving a comment about my rant and stuff like that, which probably made literally no sense. And I don't know if I'm going to upload this, but whatever. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that I made your decision easier in either purchasing or not purchasing 12 Rules for Life and Antidote to Chaos by Dr. Jordan Peterson. And thank you once again so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.